Good afternoon, everyone, on the LinkedIn podcast, part of the Sideline Sports Network. Here to talk everything Philadelphia Eagles, from the blowout loss to the 49ers that no one wants to talk about, to Big Dom getting suspended today by the NFL. He's still allowed to travel with the team, but he will not be on the sidelines. So all kinds of other stuff that we got to talk about. Dallas Goedert is going to be back this week. Zach Cunningham is going to be back this week. The team is relatively healthy for the first time in a while. We got all sorts of things to talk about, but I'm here with my co-host Lindy, like every single week. How you doing, bro? How's everything going?
I'm well, aside of what the Eagles decided to display for us last week. But as for
Oh yeah.
everybody, they've already flushed it down the toilet, as have we. But we'll still do our bidding and bring it up a little bit and get into that and a bunch of other nonsensical uh, opinions and whatnot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna get to all that today. Trust me. So let's just go ahead and get into it. The 49ers came in and they absolutely thrashed the Eagles defense. Six straight possessions in which they scored a touchdown. The defense
Yeah.
looked like they were in a complete disarray. The offense couldn't really do anything. They started off first couple drives, looked really good on the first couple drives, couldn't punch it into the end zone, had to settle for 2 field goals, and then everything was pretty much a disaster. Jalen Hurts didn't have his best game. He held the ball a lot, took sacks. There was stuff open that was underneath. He didn't take the underneath stuff. He was trying to make big plays, and it was pretty much a disaster from all around. But I have to say, the biggest thing that was exposed in the game was the linebackers. Nicholas Morrow gave up 175 yards and a touchdown in this game. They kept attacking it and they kept attacking it and they kept attacking it, and that's why they were able to just go down the field so easily. Six straight possessions with a touchdown. As I said, it was a disaster, and I hope that the addition of Darius Leonard is going to change the team, because he's got to be better than what we've seen. Even if people are saying that he can't play and he's washed and stuff, I'm gonna have to see how he plays against the Cowboys. But I think that he will provide something that we don't have, and I'm glad that Zach Cunningham's back, because that's at least going to help a little bit. So, linebacker position was exposed. Is it time to panic for the Eagles? I don't think so. The Eagles still very much in control of their destiny. You got to win this game against the Cowboys, and I think they will. And we'll talk about the Cowboys game later, but I think the Eagles are fine. We've seen it many times where a team got their ass kicked in the regular season by a team, and then they went on to beat them in the postseason. So I am not panicking, but I think the Eagles have some things to figure out, and they still have time to figure it out. They do still have time to figure it out, believe it or not. But definitely a brutal, brutal performance, and one that I hope that we soon forget.
There's a lot more that goes into it aside from just this one game alone, and I'm gonna get into one of those comments and one of the other topics that we have on the lineup. But um, if you didn't already, we're still trying to work things out from a just from a broadcast perspective. But I had Tom Stakes on for LinkedIn episode 3, part of the Talking 215 podcast, and some of the just some of the post game analysis that we had for the Niners. And I have to unfortunately regurgitate some of the just from some of the garbage that they have produced. And you know and for me, I wasn't letting the offense off the hook and watching them. Everyone's talking about the defense. They're tweeting about the defense, and they're not doing this, they're not doing that. This, the secondary was weak, the linebackers were weak, and there was a lot at a point where, you know, the pass rush wasn't getting there. I mean, Jalen Carter's crying on the sideline at one point, and it's just the entire game was just a mess. And that's another topic in itself without Jalen Carter was acting and whatnot. But I'm gonna leave it focused on this game for this topic here. We looked to be in good control for our first two possessions as we're watching that, James, and like they march down the field, they get two red zone trips to start, but they're leaving the field with 3 points instead of touchdowns. I mean, are you going to be a little more comfortable with seeing 14-0 instead of 6-0, knowing that the Niners are not a good team at playing from behind, much like Philly is with Jalen Hurts? A lot of times the Niners aren't built to play like that, and you would rather see 14-0 over 6, but it didn't happen. When you leave the door open to good teams like that, they make the adjustments. And we talked about this in the last podcast episode. San Francisco is built like a well-oiled machine. They are a system that is not used to and does not perform with making mental errors or making mistakes that is just not programmed to the 49ers, with the way Brock Purdy, with the way he conducts that offense, with the way that it is called by Shanahan, what have you. Defensively, we get them in back-to-back 3-and-outs. It looks uncharacteristic by the 49ers. He was sacked on the first Brock Purdy was sacked on the first possession. And I talk about the pass rush. When was the next time that Brock got sacked in this game? 6:46 left in the third quarter. The Eagles could not get to him again. And we've seen this time and time in the league where you have a lack of pressure on the quarterback and they sit back there and they're picking your defense apart. They're not having to worry about their side of the line. They're not having to worry about the blind side. They're not having to worry about rushers coming in their face. If you can't speed up the quarterback's process, then you're you're gonna have a hard time beating football teams. And I could continue to dogpile on where it got worse and worse and worse, but it's been beaten down on this team so bad that it's really affecting the rest of sports media. And as we just lost James there for a minute, and now he's trying to trying to come back in here. Seems like another internet issue. But if you guys watched Linc'd in the End Zone before the podcast today, I'll I'll just keep adding for entertainment purposes. Only, and this was one thing that I did not mention in that this was one thing that I did not mention in that episode. Only 3 of the 49ers scoring drives lasted longer than 3.5 minutes. So if we can create a contrast to how we're used to Eagles being able to control time of possession, and what it does for teams coming in, or us having to go to them, it keeps the opposing quarterback on the other side of the field. They're given less and less time to they're given less and less time to score. I mean, I think that's part of the basis of efficient football, is establishing a good system in time of possession, keeping the ball out of the opponent's hands. And but when your defense is struggling that bad, and I go back to lasting longer than 3.5 minutes, you're talking about six scoring drives for the 49ers instead of take 3 or 4, for instance. So only 3 of them lasting longer than 3.5 minutes. That's not even 12 minutes of game time. That's not even a single quarter that the 49ers are dumping 21 plus points on you. You're you're having such a difficult time trying to rebound from that. It would get absolutely insane. What else happened in here? Their scoring drives, and I talk about 3.5 minutes. Let's go over the length of field that the Eagles had to defend or failed to defend. 85 yards, 90, 75, 77, 75. It's not like San Fran was given short fields to work with. So at the same time, you're kind of okay with that, but you're kind of not, because there's just a lot of empty yardage. There's a lot of empty plays being left on the field for the Eagles offensively, that they just can't seem to maintain any type of control. And people want to talk about the defense in that respect. Well, in defense of the in defense of that, if your offense was any more efficient that game, you're going to give your guys a breather on the sideline to be able to try and gather themselves. It gives Sean Desai a little more time to try and settle in, figure out what the 49ers are doing. But when they're scoring as fast as they are, it's just an onslaught that's it's just very hard to try and rebound from. And a lot of times most teams aren't built to come back from that. But this has, like the next topic, being a snowball effect. That's what the Eagles defense has been for almost the entire season. They have gotten progressively a little bit worse from a game to game basis, and that's either due to things not being cleaned up properly, injuries, which I think has been a very underrated part of the conversation. How many injuries that Sean Desai's unit has had to have gone through, you know,
Yep.
from a consistency standpoint, that's kind of hard to deal with. You talked about the linebackers, James, and one of the biggest things is three of those guys and three of the guys that were starting, they were either on the practice squad, only contributing to special teams, or they have been cut before the season started and brought back. You're not working with you know say if we had Shaq Leonard towards the start of the year. I think there would be a little more criticism to a degree, but at the same time, there's some things that make it warranted and there's others that don't. So again, as you're now back trying to fight through, I think the internet issues that you had.
It wasn't the internet.
No,
It was
but
I pushed my mic back, and then it caused
oh,
malfunction to my camera, so I don't even know what
okay.
happened, but it's
But
okay.
yeah, like I said, man, it's already been almost 15 minutes for this first topic, and I could keep going, but
Sure.
I'll I'll just add a little bit to it when we get to the Dallas game. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's already Saturday at noon. People are trying to enjoy their lunch. They don't need to be ruined again by this loss when it's already behind everybody. So yeah.
Sure. So, moving on, Lindy, do you want to introduce the next topic for the LinkedIn podcast?
So this is, and I'm sure I did not catch the gauntlet yesterday, but I darn
He
well
was the sports
know
moron. Don't
I
worry.
darn well know that he had to have been a sports moron. So I'm like, yeah, he's gonna leak. He's gonna leak into this episode on what David Carr decided to believe and say about Jalen Hurts and the fact that the Eagles should consider benching him for the time being until Hurts gets healthy. Because I mean that's probably that's probably the smallest fractional part. of what he said that may be validated. We've known of Hurts's knee issue, and he still doesn't seem to be as explosive as he used to be. Uh, in terms of being able to run an RPO style of offense, which has been almost non-existent to this point this year, and I have no idea why. But that's not the here nor there. To think that Marcus Mariota would be the better quarterback in running this offense and the better solution to the Eagles maintaining their number one seed, because you put them in there, you put them in there, that's not going to happen. There's not going to be another Nick Foles-esque type of scenario that goes on here. I mean, I'm at a loss for words, and I know we talked about it on Twitter and everything, and yes, I do not completely agree with the fact that someone's football career has no impact on how they can be as an analyst. Yeah. But to me at the same time, I don't know. I really don't. This is just. There was a radio episode, and I forget what it was, but they talked about the word of the day being lunacy, and I couldn't agree more with how this was said, and the fact that David actually believes when he is saying, when nobody else tends to think so. Go watch some film analysis of what's going on. You don't hear guys like the quarterback school saying this, because he has I respect his content a lot with how he breaks down game film, and watching him break down Jalen Hurts. You don't hear guys like the quarterback school saying that. You don't hear guys like Kurt Warner saying that. You don't hear guys like Greg Cosell saying that. Dudes that have been breaking down film probably longer than David Carr's career lasting in the NFL. So, I mean, what are we doing here? All of a sudden, after a loss like this, after a big loss, oh, Hurts can't read defenses, he should be benched, this, that, and the third. What are we doing here? Nobody would, even in last year, even in the games that we lost last year, nobody was saying this. So why now? This is the same Jalen Hurts that's 33-12 as a starter in the NFL for about 2.5 years, because we're not going to count all of 2020, right? Because it was to the end of the year where they decided to start Hurts instead. So it's about 2.25 years, 2.5. He's 33-12 as a starter. Go back to his time between Alabama and Oklahoma. What was his record in college? 39-4. But this kid cannot read defenses. Just as a collective conclusion. There's how many Eagles fans right now that are besides themselves? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What did you have to say on this, especially for the gauntlet?
This was a incredibly stupid take. We all know this. First of all, what I was saying was there's a difference between having a career as a player and a career in the media. So
yes,
I know that
part's fair. Yes,
I know that the first thing people do when it comes to stuff like this is they look at a player that's on TV now and they're like, oh, well, he sucked as a player. Like, that's not even on my mind. What's on my mind is that you're a stupid idiot and you're just saying stuff for shock value and reaching, which is what he did. So I actually don't want to put all the blame on David Carr for this. Yes, he's the one that said it, but I also want to blame the NFL Network, because you guys are the ones that went to these production meetings and said, you know what? I think that sounds right. Yeah, good. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's put that on the TV because that's going to get everybody talking about it. But his points about Jalen Hurts being holding the team back or anything like that because he's not fully healthy. That's absolutely ridiculous. There's so many games that the team would not have won if they didn't have Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts come back against the Buffalo Bills. Would not have won that game. Probably wouldn't have won the Chiefs game either. There's so many games that he's made plays to elevate the team in the biggest, tightest moments. That's why he's has the best stats in the clutch this season. Which everyone wants to say, well, if you didn't start off bad, then you wouldn't have to come back. But who cares?
How many
Honestly,
quarters
who
are in a
cares?
football game?
If you're in a game that's a tight game and you gotta make these plays and
Yeah.
you make them, that's what's important. But Jalen Hurts at 70%, 60%, 30% is better than Marcus Mariota at 100%. And the Eagles are in a crucial part of the stretch. If they beat the Cowboys and sweep the Cowboys, then things are going to start looking very, very good for them. Because, yes, you got to go to Seattle, and that's a place where the Eagles have struggled a lot. But you go to Seattle, and then you got Giants, Cardinals, Giants to close out the season. I think I like it. I think I like the Eagles' chances of coming away with the number one seed if they're able to win this game on Sunday. And Jalen Hurts is still he's playing. He's not playing like we're used to seeing him. Like he's had more turnovers this season than last year, but he's still making the plays in the crucial moments, and I think that matters. So it was just a ridiculously stupid take by David Carr. So that's all I have to say about that. But we can discuss how much of an idiot this guy is all day. But
For what it's worth,
go ahead, close
for
us
what
out.
it's worth, and well, based on our conversation on Twitter, you're probably not going to like this close, but for what it's worth, and it's safe to say that Mariota is not leading outside of being a backup for us. Mariota is not leading another team to the playoffs. So for what it's worth, Marcus Mariota in a 6-game sample size, yes, I know. In a 6-game sample size, Marcus Mariota has a better playoff record than David Carr.
Well, that's not saying much, but
no, it's not. But
it's true.
he's 3-3 in the playoffs, and David Carr is clearly he's
NFL Reality Check chimes in. He says the 49ers have waited for this since last year. They got their win. They're happy. They blew us out. Blah blah blah. But let's do our thing and try to get the number one seed. Yeah, I mean, I do think the Eagles are going to have another chance to play the 49ers. As I've said, I mean, even the 49ers recently, they pretty much swept the Los Angeles Rams a couple of years ago, and the Los Angeles Rams won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So the regular season doesn't always dictate. I mean, the same thing with New Orleans Saints. One of your big rivals beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, swept them, and what happened in the playoffs? They played, and Tom Brady did his thing. So this is not a real indication of what's going to happen in the postseason. We know the Eagles are built for the postseason. The 49ers are a great team. They'll get another chance. And I totally disagree with the comments of Nick Bosa saying that he exposed Jalen Hurts. He did not expose Jalen Hurts because of one game. Jalen Hurts is going to see the film. He's going to be prepared the next time that he plays against you. So, 49ers, you got us. It is what it is, but we will see you again.
Yeah, I mean, good to see you, by the way, AK. It's been an awfully long time for NFL Reality Check. For realistic Eagles fans, because every fan base has the ones that take things to a completely different level that is just a bit extreme. But when we played Kansas City, did the realistic people make that our Super Bowl? Much like San Francisco coming in dressed like it was going to be a funeral, the way they were acting about this game, a regular season game. This wasn't a playoff game. We're not eliminated. We're still the number one seed. Like really? Did we make Kansas City our Super Bowl game in the regular season? No. No, we didn't. Why are y'all acting like it was your Super Bowl to beat us the way you did? Oh, because because Brock Purdy got hurt in the NFC Championship game because your offensive line was leaking like rusty pipes. Stop it.
We're gonna see you again.
Yeah.
We can talk about that all day.
Yep.
Let's talk about the news, the big news of this week. The Eagles signed linebacker Shaquille Leonard, formerly known as Darius Leonard, a former All-Pro, Pro Bowl linebacker. Been dealing with injuries the last couple of years. Got released by the Colts, and he visited the Cowboys, visited the Eagles, and decided to come to Philadelphia. A lot of that had to do with his relationship with Sirianni, which he revealed in some interviews in the locker room, saying stuff about Nick and his competitive spirit and just liking to be around the guy. So I'm very happy with the move. I'm looking forward to seeing. Excuse me. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do because we know the Eagles have a depleted linebacker position. Nakobe Dean's out for the season. Nicholas Morrow up and down. He's had some good games this year. Last game was terrible. And it hasn't been good. The only real bright spot, I guess, has been Zach Cunningham. And Zach was out for the last game with the hamstring injury. He's supposed to come back this week. So Shaq Leonard, Zach Cunningham, if the two of these guys can put something together, I think it should provide a good boost for the Eagles defense. I'm looking forward to seeing that on Sunday night against the Dallas Cowboys. Big game. Eagles trying to sweep the Cowboys for the first time since 2011. So I am happy with the move. I thought that this would be the case because Nick was actively recruiting him and, calling him and texting him and doing all this stuff. So I wasn't too surprised that he chose the Eagles over the Cowboys, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he can provide something.
Now it was said at a point in time, Shaq Leonard, and I wonder if they're going to end up. I wonder if they're going to end up doing the same thing with Shaq Leonard that they did with Slay, and how he likes to just be called Slay, and he's only allowed to be called Darius by his grandmother. I thought that to myself, but that was kind of funny. I don't think it has happened yet, but to a degree, Shaq's only here for the rest of the season. So we'll see whether that gets built in or not as a little nugget. But Shaq came into, going back to 2018 and playing under Eberflus. He started out in a 3-4. He started out in a 3-4 front. But ever since then, I think Eberflus went from a 3-4 to a 4-3 up until I think 2021. Then Gus Bradley comes in and he maintains that 4-3. So, outside from a schematic perspective, and and how this defensive front is aligned, because we know we're a combination of 4-3 and a lot of 5-2 looks. I'm not entirely worried on how well or not Shaq Leonard's going to fit in there, but what I am worried about is from a physicality standpoint, and just what we have seen on display as of recently with the 49ers game. And a lot of that is just because the linebacking core, for one, has had a hard time of staying healthy. I think Morrow was banged up at one point, but he was still able to play. We just watched Cunningham with the hamstring. And this stemmed from the beginning of the year. And we watched Miles Jack retire. He was supposed to be another contributor. He ends up retiring. He comes out of retirement to sign with What did he go to Pittsburgh? I think. I don't remember.
Oh no,
Did
he
he
was
unretire and
he
go to
was
Pittsburgh or
he
somewhere
was
else?
he was talking with Pittsburgh, but I don't think he ever
Okay.
signed him.
Okay. Yeah. It's like really, really do, but to each their own when it comes to that. Your heart has to be completely in it. We get it. And then like this is stemmed from the very beginning, and I know where the management arguments are coming in and everything, and the responsibility of how the coach and Howie Roseman is supposed to maintain this roster and whatnot. But it got a little too late into the year than everybody would have wanted. I think at the trade deadline they were. I think there was stuff about the trade at the trade deadline about Jordan Hicks. It would have been nice to see him. The Dallas Cowboys ended up working out Anthony Barr again, who did play for them last year, I believe. So, that's maybe something the Eagles could have done. I think where I'm getting at is that they obviously could have done a lot more to try and help out Desai with his unit at the second level, because it's just the level of inconsistency there is not helping matters, especially the way that they have been playing. When a team gets as physical and as fast as San Francisco played, and you're asking your guys to try to crash at the line of scrimmage as fast as possible and run fits, and it's a team that's building up a lot of yak yards and what have you. They're getting completely exhausted. So I'm hoping Shaq Leonard kind of changes the tone of how they play at the linebacker position. I hope he's a tone setter, because I was going into this game. And I was thinking, I come out of it. Well, who was the tone setter? Who was the tone setter against the 49ers? I have no idea. Like, can anybody tell me who the tone setter was of that game, offense or defensive side? I have no idea. So I'm hoping, because we just haven't come up with who that's been consistently on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think. Like, everybody, from the beginning of the year to about the midway point, everyone had a big eye on Jalen Carter. The improvement on a week to week basis that he was making, the impact that he brought to the defensive line with a Fletcher Cox returning, and for how many years people would say, if Fletch had good teammates next to him, he would be doubled less. Uh, Jordan Davis is garnering that attention now. Jalen Carter's getting that attention. Okay, that's great. What do we have at the second level? There is, like, the level of consistency there is non-existent. So I'm hoping with Shaq coming in here for the remainder of the season, I just hope that he adds the proper depth. I am also hoping, not to mention, that he is 100% healthy, because again, this is another player coming in with injury concerns, back surgery, ankle surgery. He had two back injuries because of bulged discs.
He
He
passed
had
the
he
physical.
had an ankle issue. He had a couple of concussions. So, linebacker coming in with that kind of injury history at 28 years old, you hope that he can maintain some kind of consistency there. You can go and look at his snap counts from this year. I think the most snaps he played in a single game this year was 81. 81 or 83% of the snaps, and he had only 2 games with that. So, with Zach Cunningham returning, Nicholas Morrow hoping to turn over a new leaf with his running mate coming back. And this isn't also to not mention Nakobe Dean going to IR for the second straight time. They expected a lot more out of him, and he hasn't shown anything, unfortunately. So they
The Eagles gotta
they
they
need a
don't
tone setter.
They
Somebody
don't
needs to be
value
a
this
tone setter at that
position.
position.
They don't value this position,
No, and it's
and
unfortunate.
they don't ever value the position. The
I
Eagles
mean,
need to draft a linebacker in the first round. That is what needs to happen for the betterment of the team, for the future of the team, because this is the situation we get ourselves into signing guys, 1 year deals, all the stuff that we do all the time. We got to put ourselves in a better position and have like a real piece. The Eagles need their own Fred Warner type of guy to build the defense around. They don't
oh
have,
man,
they don't have a guy like that,
wishful thinking.
and they need
How,
it.
how many seasons does Howie Roseman need to watch? Success aside, how many seasons does he need to watch and observe to understand the importance of this position and what it could truly mean to a defense? Bobby Wagner went back to Seattle and he's playing at a decently high level for how many years he's been in the league.
What happened with the Baltimore Ravens last year to trade for Roquan Smith? He's been outstanding this season. He's been
And he was he was a target for us too.
Well, we got to address this position. We can talk about it all day long.
Yeah.
Randy, I want you to open up our last topic. Dallas Cowboys coming, or Eagles going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Second meeting of this year. What do we need to know about this game?
You can take like I have in the like it's in the in the subliner here, Dallas week 2. Take it for what it's worth. Yeah, Gardner Minshew he played in one of those matchups against against Dallas going to Jerry World. We've lost our
He had a
last
pretty
4.
decent game too.
Yeah, it was. It was a good game, but the defense still gave up 40 points.
Well, I was saying Minshew played a decent game.
He did. He
defense
did.
gave up a 3rd and 30. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's
Slay gave up a 3rd.
yeah. Let's get back to it here. New year, but the Dallas Cowboys are realistically the same team with reinforcements. And I've addressed this in a previous episode of LinkedIn before, and this was the first meeting that we had where they came to Philadelphia first. There's still credit to give where credit is due to another team that fights through injury and still plays at a high level. Again, I don't think anyone's seen Deron Bland playing the way that he has through this year so far, aside from his games where he has gotten beat, and Seattle has shown a little blueprint of their own in how well they attacked Deron Bland, although he did get an interception in that game for what it's worth. But he had a hard time with Dallas. The Dallas secondary had a hard time with Metcalf. They had a hard time with JSN. They had a hard time with Tyler Lockett. So, I mean, Seattle's receiver core, I give them a lot of respect. And kudos to JSN coming back from injury and having the game that he did.
He's a hell of a player.
Yeah. Yeah. But Philly still has a hell of a player times 3, because who's the other pass catcher that is now returning for the Birds that Dallas ended up taking out in the first matchup? You thought he was done?
I bet you he's going to be pissed off coming back because of that.
Yeah. That's a bit of an understatement. I would imagine he's going to run some guys over. But and I wanted Zach Ertz for this game. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm still not over that right now. I don't know why he's not signed, but that's not the here nor there either. Dallas to this point at 9-3, being the number 1 scoring offense at 32 points a game, opponents aside. You still have to play who's in front of you. I'm going to say that as I'm going to say that as a realistic football fan, despite can't not standing that star. I can't stand them. Um, and yeah, people tried to discredit the Eagles for the same thing last year, but I don't care. You play who's in front of you. That's that. Number one offense. They're top 5 scoring defense. They're 4th in the league at 18 a game. This is a team that you're not going to have a whole lot of luck with either running or passing the football. They're top 10 to average in rushing, which we know to this point they still allow about 4.1 yards a carry. Offensively, they're the same. Rushing touchdowns, they're average at 10 with they're at 16th. They're average with about 10. Where they can be gotten is, they're top 10 on third down, which you'll give them. They're not a very good red zone team like the Eagles aren't. Unfortunately, the Eagles are, I think, bottom 3, and then we're dead last on third down right now. But that's where you can get them. And this is just, it's going to be a completely different atmosphere, as we know, going into Jerry World. That team, I don't know. The team plays completely different at home than on the road. And the same can be said for, any other team when you have home field advantage. CeeDee Lamb, as we know, he's approaching 1,200 yards, and it's been going back and forth all year. Who do you want as a receiver, A.J. Brown or CeeDee Lamb? So that competition is still strong and healthy. Kevontae Turpin has not gotten a whole lot of targets, but when he does get it, he makes the most for it. So where am I going with this? Six of the Cowboys pass catchers, tight end or receiver, 6 of them are 10 yards or more in yards per reception. So, the way they like to play in terms of the pass, they're really going to try and split you apart in terms of not completely relying on the short game, as a lot of teams have wanted to beat up the Eagles in doing. And we have seen this in the past, and it still sticks in my craw, that Pittsburgh Steelers game where Ben's getting the ball out in less than 2.5 seconds, and we're just being picked apart in terms of the short pass game. Dallas likes to spread you out. They have not had a whole lot of success in terms of running the football, much like the Eagles have as of late, although we started strong with DeAndre Swift, and now it's a whole completely different conversation.
DeAndre's not getting the ball. That's not because they can't run the ball. It's because they're not.
That should have been an extension of Sports Moron of the Week, with the guys standing outside of NovaCare with the run the ball sign. And I love how they brought them coffee, though.
They brought them some coffee. That was pretty funny.
I love that.
But here's the difference.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. The last game, CeeDee Lamb had almost 200 yards in that game.
Without a touchdown.
He had a lot of matchups in the slot against Eli Ricks.
Yes.
Roby is going to be playing in this game. They did not have Roby in the last game. This week, during practice, Roby told the coaches and the scout team to throw more targets at him, because he's prepared that the Cowboys are going to go to CeeDee Lamb and they're going to keep trying to get him the ball. So he has more experience and can actually do something at that position. Okay? Otherwise, I need Slay to do something. Slay's been talking a lot. Slay and Seth Joyner, going at each other like that. I need you to back up the talk on the field.
What do you think of that, by the way?
You're the best corner on this team. And this defense has been getting torched. Everyone has been discussing how bad they are. This is your chance. This is your chance. Sunday Night Football. The whole world's going to be watching. Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, big rivalry. Huge game for the division. If you sweep the Cowboys, they pretty much got to accept the fact that they're the 5 seed at best. And they're going to, I mean, being the 5 seed also isn't that bad because you're going to end up playing Atlanta in the wild card round. But I'm just saying, you're not winning the division. You have no chance of having home field in the playoffs. This is your chance to bury the Cowboys. And you need to do it. And the defense, I think, needs to set the tone. The Eagles need to win the coin toss, and they need to defer. And the defense needs to come at Dak Prescott. And you need to shut down this talk about how he should be the MVP. Everyone's talking about Dak. Everyone's talking about the Cowboys. The sky is falling for the Eagles because they lost one game. Guess what? This is your chance to go out there and shut all that down. Dallas Goedert coming back is huge. It's huge for the team. A.J. Brown has been, quote-unquote, relatively quiet. Had 100-plus yards against the 49ers, though. He opens up the middle of the field, so you can't put that too high safety look out there and, just try to, take away Devontae and A.J. Brown. You're not going to be able to do that because Goddard's going to eat up in the middle of the field. You can't do that. And he's going to be pissed off at these Cowboys, which, by the way, whoever tried to break his arm, that was a dirty play. There was no reason for it. He clearly was trying to twist the guy's arm. I cannot wait to see this team because this team is resilient. If you've noticed, when the Eagles have lost the game since Sirianni and Hurts has been here, almost every single time they always bounce back and they always come out and they hit you with their best shot. And then that's exactly what I expect to happen. I think for this team to be successful, they need to stop being stubborn. If there's a couple plays where Swift not getting the run game going, he gets 3 yards or 4 yards, then they're just screw it, we're going to throw the ball. That's not okay because we've seen both games against the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. The turning point of both games, Swift made a huge play. He made a huge play, big gain on the ground, setting up a touchdown drive. Overtime, the game winner for Jalen Hurts. Everyone talks about the game-winning touchdown. Jalen runs it in. But what happened before that? Swift got the ball, huge run.
Was it 32, 33 yards? Yeah.
Yep. Got him inside the 15-yard line. Yep. You cannot give up on DeAndre Swift because he adds a different dynamic to the Eagles offense with his speed and everything that he can do.
By the way,
I think they're just a little bit stubborn when it comes to running the ball, but they cannot do that. They got to have a good game plan, and I think they are going to win this game.
By the way, would you believe that Kenny Gainwell had more snaps against the 49ers than DeAndre Swift? Why?
I don't understand.
Please, can somebody give me a legitimate reason why Kenny Gainwell is getting more snaps than DeAndre Swift when he is nowhere near the dynamic impact of a player that Swift is? And I don't even think Swift is 25 yet. I understand that Kenny has less experience at the NFL level, but why is he still getting more snaps than a guy who is NFL proven, who had some electric years for Detroit when he was healthy, can contribute a lot more in bigger ways? Why is he getting fewer snaps than Kenny Gainwell? I'm sorry, that's beyond me. Aside from Boston Scott, which I can understand to a degree and how they have used him before as the giant killer, but I don't know. There should not be a universe in which Kenny Gainwell is getting more snaps than DeAndre Swift.
No,
seriously,
I totally agree.
Why?
But
why?
Back on track.
Yeah.
You gotta get him going. You gotta get him going because I think that the Eagles have a lot of great pieces on the offense, but if you're able to get DeAndre Swift going and then people start bringing guys to inside the box, it's over. it's over because you can't stop any of these other guys. You can't stop Devontae, AJ, and Dallas while trying to stop the run game and threat of Jalen Hurts, getting out there too. So I think the Eagles gotta stop being so stubborn when it comes to the run game and just like they see a couple runs in the first quarter and like, oh man, we can't run the ball, and then you just start airing it out. That's why the game plan against San Francisco was very, very unbalanced and unorganized. But I have the Eagles winning this game, and they're going to bounce back. I think the Eagles are going to play their first game of the season where they really, really show it, and they show people that, this is a team that's capable of winning a Super Bowl. I have the Eagles winning by 10, 34-24.
Okay. Back to your point about opening the middle of the field. Who else does that that's playing in this game now that we didn't have against San Fran? Dallas Goedert. They tried doing that against the 49ers with due respect, they did, because Albert O was open a couple of times. Jack Stoll was open a couple of times. Hurts just didn't throw it. We know this. So there's still a wrinkle in that offense in them attempting to spread the defense out, even when the Niners were playing too high safety. They still tried. They still tried with the tight ends that they did. But Dallas Goedert is a completely different animal. And I also think that that's where we could have used Zach Ertz too. And this goes back to my argument even when we still had him in 2021. A lot of people forget that when Dallas Goedert first got in here, who was he emulating or modeling his game after on the exact same team in 2018 onward? Zach Ertz. He was modeling his route running. He was modeling his ability to know where the soft spots in zone coverage are. He was modeling his ability to get his man off him in man coverage. A lot of the reason as to why Dallas Goedert is as good as he is today is because of Zach Ertz. People forget that. And there should have been a higher consideration of adding him to this team. And he still remains on top.
I don't think Goddard wants him to come back. I think
I don't know about that.
Based off of Goddard, what they were asking him about it, and based off of what Goddard's body language, he looked like he does not want any part of playing with this guy again because of how much Ertz got more targets than him. Literally pretty much until he got traded, he was getting all the targets. Since he was a rookie, he came in as a rookie. That was the year that Ertz had like the reception record.
That's so understandable.
He was like Wentz's main guys, and Goddard has gotten the chance to prove that he's the guy. So
yeah,
I think he doesn't want to go back to that, and that's the reason that they're not signing him.
You really think that's going to happen with Zach being 33 years old? He's not the same player anymore.
I'm telling you how I think Goddard feels about it. I'm not telling you what I think is going to happen. I'm telling you that Goddard feels this way, and I think that's why the team doesn't want to bring him in.
I don't know about that. I don't think you should base it off of one player and one player alone. I don't know. I think there's. I can't think of an example to make an argument for it, but yeah, no. What do I got for my score prediction here? It's gonna be tough. I mean, again, the Eagles know what they're getting with this team. They have improved over the last few games. There's no denying that. This is a defense that, as we know, loves to play man coverage. They're very aggressive in that. They're another team that loves to be physical. We already understand what Micah Parsons brings to the table. DeMarcus Lawrence on that defensive front, along with other guys that that the content creators have been mentioning to us. OSA, Dorrance Armstrong has been decent for them. Marquise Bell on the come up at the safety position. So like I could keep going on. We know what they're going to bring to the table, and they always bring a lot more when they're playing in Jerry World. We know
Sure.
that. Um, I also want to give credit where credit is due to Jake Ferguson on the come up. Happy for him. So I do not want him being underestimated because bullying he was bullying the heck out of Seattle's defense, and he embarrassed Jamal Adams so bad that Jamal was hitting low blows on Twitter, as we know. So I don't want to underestimate him. But bottom line,
Understood.
bottom line, let's see. I do not see I don't know if I see a team going over 30. If that, maybe 31. Maybe 31. Uh we both thought the Eagles were going to win against the Niners. This is going to be tougher because they have a 4-game losing streak to break in Jerry World. I'm sincerely stumped. I am. I have. Let's go with Philly. They don't have a choice. The Eagles do not have a choice to lose. There's too much at stake than a lot of people do or don't realize. There's a lot at stake for this game. So I think we're capable of scoring 35. I'll break my prediction. I think both teams are going to go over 30 for this game. It's going to be a fight. The Eagles are going to want to fight. If A.J. Brown is talking about, you'll see, with keeping conversations in the locker room and not giving a whole lot to reporters, they're out for blood. They're going to be out for blood. Let's do 35. Let's do 35-33. I got a 2-point game. It's not going to
Both
be an
one
easy
nail
one.
biter. I think the Eagles are going to have a dominant game. They're going to handle business. And I got 34-24. Lindy's got 35-33. That does it for another episode of the LinkedIn podcast. Lindy, any last things you want to say before we get off?
No, not a whole lot. Linked in the end zone is going to continue as usual. Episode 4 in the works for next week. And if you didn't catch episode 3 with, like I said, with Tom Stakes of talking 215, give that a look out. It is only on my channel until we fix out the broadcast destinations, but go give that episode a
We'll
look.
work on that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. LinkedIn Podcast,
Absolutely,
your place for the Philadelphia Eagles on the Sideline Sports Network. We look forward to seeing you guys next time. All right, clicked it wrong. There we go.